I'm getting ready to bring up Rick Cole to induct Miles Hare.
No, I'm talking about.
And as I do, I want to tell you about Rick Cole. He has been a great help to me as the rodeo announcer, and has been a great help to the committee, directing a lot of what happens in the arena, as well as a lot of behind the scenes ahead of time.
Yes, you do.
I got to tell you a story about Rick. A lot of you may not know, but on occasion, he loves to fish. Rick was on a fishing trip by himself one day. He was sitting in the boat, and he was floating along there and fishing, and he heard this female voice say, "Hey, pick me up, I'm down here." He looked around, thought he was hearing something, and a little while later he heard the same voice, "Hey, down here, pick me up." This female voice said, "Pick me up, I'm down here." He looked over at the boat, he saw a frog. He looked at that frog and said, "Is that you?" She said, "Yeah, you pick me up and kiss me, I'll turn to a beautiful princess." So Rick grabbed that frog and he put that frog in his pocket. She said, "Hey, didn't you hear me? If you kiss me, I'll turn into a beautiful princess." About that time, Rick looked in his pocket. He said, "At my age, I just soon have a talking frog." Rick Cole, everybody.
Good evening. Can everybody hear me? All right. I have the extreme pleasure and honor this evening to induct into the Ellensburg Rodeo Hall of Fame one of the greatest bullfighters that this sport has known. And I'm not just blowing smoke. I've had the opportunity, being in the arena in front of the chutes, basically since I got on this board, to watch all of these bullfighters that we've had in the Ellensburg Rodeo. We've had great ones. The bullfighters are rodeo's first responders because they run in when everybody else is trying to get the heck out of the way. And it's a science. It's an instinct. It's beautiful to watch a good bullfighter work. And I urge you this rodeo weekend to pay attention to what those guys are doing in the arena, because their timing has to be exquisite. They have to anticipate what the bull is going to do and where he's going to go. Miles learned from one of the greatest, Wick Pep, who was the first real dedicated bullfighter. He was not a clown. He made it an art form. He made it a job. He wore the paint, which is the only vestige left of the old rodeo clowns. But he dedicated himself to saving and protecting the cowboys when they get off those bulls. And in order to do what these guys do, they have to really know. They have to get inside that bull's brain. They have to know what the animal's going to do. They have to prepare ahead of time to know what the normal trip is going to be. And then on top of all of that, they have to wait until the ride is over, until the whistle blows, and then they have to wait to see how he gets off. Because he may not get off in a good spot. He may fall into the well, he may hang up, he may get thrown over the front of the bull, right in front of him. And so the bullfighter has to anticipate all of these things happening, and has to do it in a split second. And I've been privileged to watch these guys work. And Miles is set to stand. He puts himself in harm's way without even thinking about it. few years ago, well, more than a few years ago, 30 years ago at least, Rob and Miles were working in the arena. And it's funny because I asked Miles this evening, I said, you remember when you and Rob, there was a guy hung up on a pole and you guys got tossed in the air? He says, yeah, it was Harold Tappenstone. And it's funny how these guys remember the bowls, they remember the rides, they can recall them like this. And Miles fought bowls for almost 40 years, which is amazing in and of itself. But anyway, Harold got thrown over his hand, and as Miles said, he had a sticky rope anyway, and usually got hung up. And so Rob and Miles jumped in the middle of this bowl trying to free his hand. And what they try to do is they try to unwrap the wrap that's holding the hand because he's fallen over his hand. And the bull, of course, is just doing everything he can to get rid of everybody. And the bull, there's all of a sudden this big commotion, and up in the air go all three of these guys. Go Harold and Rob and Miles, and they all landed in a big pile in the middle of the arena. And they were all pretty much dazed. I mean, there wasn't any movement for a few minutes, and the bull just stood there like he didn't know what was going on. He got rid of everybody, and they popped back up, and they went on and finished the rodeo. And I'll never forget that. Miles was a Gordon, Nebraska boy. Started fighting bulls when he was about 13. And he fought bulls at the Houston Rodeo for 30 years. And retired in 2008. And how you could do this for that long and put himself in the positions that he was in is absolutely amazing. Miles knew the bulls. He knew what they were going to do pretty much. I talked to a few people that knew Miles back in those days, and I gave Donnie Gay a call. Donnie's known Miles, and Miles worked the arena a lot when we had the Donnie Gays and the Tough Edmonds and the Lane Frosts, the Jim Sharps, the Wasey Cathys, and all of these fabulous bull riders that didn't wear protection, that wore their cowboy hats, and got on those bulls. And there was it was quite a group back in those days. Donnie Gay said of Miles Hare, said Miles was mentally tough. He had an extreme athletic ability. He was probably the most athletic bullfighter of his day. He took bullfighting to a new level, is what Don Gay said of Miles Hare. And then Don said, if I was getting hooked, so was he. That he's one of the greatest ever. I talked to a man who probably considers himself Miles' brother, Rob Smets, world champion in his own right. He said Miles Hare's forgotten more about bullfighting than anyone will ever know. Miles was the first world champion, and then repeated again in 1988 when he shared that title with Rob Smets. How fitting. Rob told me a story in 1983. They were fighting bulls, and Rob wasn't doing too well. Getting hooked a lot, not scoring well, and he was thinking maybe he ought to just maybe pack it up and head it in. And he said, after the rodeo, I was telling Miles I was pretty discouraged, and Miles gave him some advice that made a big difference in Rob's life. Miles said, quit all the fancy stuff and get back to the basics. And Rob went on to win the world that year. This is the other thing that I admire more than anything about the rodeo way of life, because every single contestant out there, I don't care whether you're a team roper, a steer wrestler, a bull rider, whatever you're doing, all of these guys help the next guy get a better score. They loan them their horse. If they can't get to a rodeo, if they break down, they give them their horse. They do whatever they have to do for these people to compete. Now, I dare you to find any other sport in our country that does that. And I admire all of you. It's a we're all together kind of a deal. And I think that's what I enjoy most about it. So, in closing, before I get Miles up here, and of course, as you know, bullfighters are pretty short on what they say, because they don't usually have to say much. But I want to bring up this man who is a 6-time NFR bullfighter. Started fighting bulls in 1977, retired in 2008. He fought bulls at Rodeo Houston for 30 years. I think you've seen the picture of him with the saddle and the daily record. He's a world champion twice. He's in the PRCA Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame. And now he's in the Ellensburg Rodeo Hall of Fame. It's my pleasure to introduce world champion Miles Hare.
I made a living with my cleats, not my mouth, so pardon my speech. But we do have Justin down there with a silver tongue if I have a problem. I came in here years ago. Buck Miner was the first guy running this when I came in here. And I can't tell you guys nothing about Buck Miner. You guys know him better than me. It was remarkable to me that my father was a roper. I won the state of Nebraska in the calf roping. I was a roper myself. And I noticed this whole committee was pretty much time event people, raised good quarter horses, some of the best horses in the world. And I was always shocked how much knowledge these people had about bull riding, bullfighting, and every event on this committee. They're very aware, they demanded the best. This is no easy rodeo to work. They run the best bulls in the world at you. They have 6, 7 stock contractors come in here. They each one of them bring their premier bulls. And it was a tough event. As I look back over the years, I'll always remember a bull called Texas Red that we used to put on the chariot. It was a very dangerous bull. And there was a little gray Bramer you guys had up here called Gentleman Jim Kelsey's. And them bulls were real challenging. When you come to the Northwest, you knew you was going to face those bulls at the end of each day of the bull riding. And I was so honored. We had, like he had mentioned earlier, Tough, Edelman, and Lane Frost, and Jim Sharp, and some of the best friends I've ever had through the years. And I don't ever remember an era of bull riding where there was so tough of bull riders as that group of bull riders. And they were here every year that I was here. And it was just an honor to get into the arena. And over the years, when you work a rodeo for a decade or more, you become close friends with some of the committee people. And there's people up here. If I mentioned one, I love Joel, I love Rick, Ken. You guys, there's so many of you guys that I have so much respect for. And it was just an honor always. And I got to tell you, today, you guys still have the very best. Got toughness coming in here with Cody Webster. I was the youngest bullfighter to ever have worked at finals. for 30, 40 years, and Cody Webster came along, and now he's the youngest man, and where's he at? He's in Ellensburg, Washington. He's where he belongs. This rodeo is for the prestigious group. A rodeo like this really defines who I am. I came in here, I worked this rodeo the first time I ever came here with Quick Path. He was one of my heroes, one of my mentors. When I finished working this rodeo, I was working with Rob Smith, another one of the best in the world. And that really is what Ellensburg is all about. It's all about the best. And like I said, it was a challenge every year. We come here, we swept for 4 days, and we packed our stuff up. We used a lot of ice bags while we were here. And when we got out of here, we couldn't wait to get back in here the next year. And the first thing you wanted to do was get this contract back in your book. And that's what rodeo is all about. And I mean, there's nothing more important than the next bull they buck. And you buck the best ones here. And Miles here is one guy that's proud to be up here tonight.
You know, I've had an opportunity to be around some legends. I told a Jim Shoulder story a moment ago. Got to hang out with Jim quite a bit early on in my career, and I got to work and practically live on the road with the Tough Hedemans and Jim Sharps there during the PBR years. And I've flown on Lear jets with Cody Custer and Roy Cooper, and got to compete a little bit at a high level in the PRCA. But I just want to say this, Miles. Out of all the things I've been able to do and see, the people I've been around, for me to get to sit at your table beside you tonight was a highlight of my career. Come up with, and I mean that. And I will say he is enough older than me that my parents named me Justin Miles Mckee. Part of that's true. My middle name is Miles. I've never told you that. That part is true. Oh man, what a great night! What a great night! At this time, I would like to bring Molly and Annie, Morrow. I'd like to bring Molly and Annie up to the podium right now as we get ready to induct the rodeo grandmas into the Ellensburg Rodeo Hall of Fame. So how about we give them a nice welcome.
Isn't that wonderful to hear his voice? Yeah. Doesn't that just say rodeo? Are you guys all set? I mean, doesn't that just say Ellensburg Rodeo right here? I mean, I gotta take this off here because I'm not the right height, so it's okay. I'd like to, this is my daughter Annie, and Annie and I work as a team here. Annie, this is Annie Morrow, Allie, and Annie remembers the rodeo grandmas too because she was in high school when the grannies were making their 10-year run. And when Jack said, "Would you like to present the rodeo grandmas?" I said, "Oh Jack, I don't know if I could do it." And I said, "But let me think about it." And I said, "Let me call Annie." And she said, "Sure, Mom, I'll help you." And so here's my sidekick, and here we go. Whether they were riding, cooking, or living on the ranch, the rodeo grandmas always hung their hats and hearts near the land. From gathering cattle to appearing on major television shows, the rodeo grandmas rode plenty of miles, spreading their genuine Western hospitality and cowgirl spirit. Tonight, we are here to honor those 5 true Western hearts: Judy Galladay, Janice Capizoli Anderson, Peggy Miner Hunt, Lorraine Plass, and Chloe Weidenbach. Together, these women are the rodeo grandmas of Ellensburg, Washington, who are ambassadors for women, active senior citizens, the Western way of life, the Kittitas Valley, Washington State, and the Ellensburg Rodeo. There are so many ways to honor the rodeo grandmas, but Grandma Lorraine Plass said it best, quote, "We're a good bunch together." And she was right all the time, I guarantee it. She did a lot of quotes, let me tell you. In December 1993, the Seattle advertising agency McCann Erickson came to Ellensburg looking for veteran ranch women to cast in Washington Mutual's Banks, That's Different ad campaign. When the ad agency put Judy, who was 52 years old at the time, Janice, who was 57, Peggy, who was 66, and Lorraine, 82, together, no one could imagine that it would catapult them into such a fantastic journey, lasting 10 years. Lorraine's daughter Chloe was an essential member of the traveling party, and I was fortunate enough to be included as the photographer, manager, and yes, bus driver. And thank you, University Auto, because we had the best rodeo grandma van in the world. Let me tell you what. Made 3 television commercials for the bank and were featured on billboards, buses, and countless personal appearances, which led to regional, national, and international media coverage. Here at home, they were even on the telephone book cover. They became a phenomenon. They were magnets for people young and old. Everyone has a grandma, but these grandmas knew how to ride and roll. Folks gravitated to their strength, their beauty, and their spark. Wrinkles didn't matter, and they even had to grade Peggy's hair for the rodeo, for the first rodeo grandma commercial, which she did not want them to do, but they had to put a grade in her hair. But most importantly, they were true to themselves, and that was irresistible. The grandma's first television commercial aired in 1994. It was so successful that Washington Mutual Bank asked them to be back for 2 more. The first commercial was filmed between Woodinville and Redmond, Washington. The second commercial was filmed in the Caribou Canyon, right here in Kittitas County. And the third was filmed in Los Angeles, California. Let's take a look at those starring roles now. Here's the 3 commercials.
The Rodeo Grandmas of Ellensburg, Washington. If you think this is out of the ordinary, what if we told you about a local bank that's been helping Northwest people save and invest since 1889? That's different. That's Washington Mutual. And it's something you just don't see every day.
It's the Rodeo Grandmas from Washington Mutual.
Where are you fellas headed?
Headed up north to open up some banks.
Hey, this stage is empty.
Exactly. See, we drive it up here empty and then take it back down south full.
You all bandits then?
No, ma'am. We're Californians.
Washington Mutual, keeping the Northwest safe for truth, justice, and free checking.
Is this checking plan really free?
Absolutely.
Not so fast.
From Washington Mutual. Nice tights.
Wait a second. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe like Washington Mutual, we too should offer free checking. That's actually free, without hidden charges. What am I saying? I just bought a boat. Get them.
Truth, justice, and free checking.
Say you're sorry.
Ow, Grandma, that's my ear.
Are you guys bandits?
By the way, that photo was taken during the second commercial riding the Caribou, and not very far from the Clockham. So we did some commercial work right here at home. After the first commercial aired, Aviva L. Brandt, a reporter from the Yakima Bureau of the Associated Press, wrote a story on the grandmas. The article and the picture that we took in the Ellensburg Rodeo Arena went far beyond central Washington, running in papers across the country and around the world. The phone started ringing with interview requests, including from Tracy Vetter at Creme 2 News in Spokane. She met us at Chloe Weidenbach's Standing W Ranch. And who else could tell their story as well as the ladies themselves? Let's play it and hear the voices and watch them ride again.
When a Seattle ad agency went searching for 4 grandmothers who could ride and rope, they went to the heart of Washington cow country, Ellensburg, and they found 4 true Western hearts. Lorraine Plass, range rider.
Of course, I'm the oldest. I crack the whip. Yeah.
Peggy Minor Hunt, trick roper. Janice Anderson, team roper.
I work daily, roping my dummy steer, trying to get better and better.
And Judy Galladay, all-around cowhand.
I ride about 6 to 7, between 6 and 7 months out of the year for the Bar Balloon Ranch.
These women are naturals for a commercial because their skills are real, born of necessity, circumstance, and an innate knack for handling a hard life with grace and humor.
And it's just our nature. We're just not ones to set.
Peggy has trick roped and rode most of her life. Janice still helps her daughter and son-in-law on their ranch.
We started out as kids in the branding corral helping our mom and dad. Shoulder's not working too well today. I thought too Janice should mention her grandsons that she ropes with them. How old are they? Like, one is 6 and one is 9. And they're little ropers, I'll tell you.
Judy rides range alone for months of the year.
Come here, Tar.
Her dogs and her horse Shalar are her main companions during the long hours.
It's either in here or it's not, but it's Mother Nature and the animals and God's country. It's just, you just, once you're out there, you just don't, or I just don't want to let go of it.
Today, the women are rounding up cutting cows for Lorraine's daughter and son-in-law. At 83, Lorraine doesn't always ride the roughest terrain, but she still helps.
Get out here, and oh boy, it feels so good, you know, to be out here and see all the country and the fresh air, and you like to push cattle here and push them there and show them who's boss.
Auditioning for a TV commercial was a bit of a lark for them.
I just went down because the daughter was going down, and I thought, well, I'll go down just in case the joint, you know, see what's going to happen.
But it also brought the 4 of them together, with laughter and a friendship that's cherished.
Wonderful ladies, wonderful ladies. We're a good bunch together.
Yeah.
Wherever their new TV popularity takes them, the rodeo grandmas will ride it magnificently. In Ellensburg, I'm Tracy Vetter, Creme 2 News.
As the grandma's profile grew, they were featured in many other national news programs, things like NBC's Today Show, CBS This Morning, Entertainment Tonight, and the Rosie O'Donnell Show. In 1997, Jose Diaz-Balart, a correspondent for CBS This Morning, traveled here to Ellensburg to capture the grandmas in action. The story, which was so big it aired in a 2-part series, which also gave the Ellensburg Rodeo a national platform. Here's the second piece in that series. Again, the segments were filmed at Janice and Chloe's ranch, allowing us to use the beautiful Kittitas Valley and the Ellensburg Rodeo as our backdrop. Be sure to watch for a few familiar faces and voices here too.
Jane, my gift to you. Try it on. Let's see it.
Now I'm a rodeo grandma?
No, you're just a rodeo gal.
A little hard to see, but
I'll tell you,
good.
you're still young, but in their later years, they have become stars. They're not only a shining example for seniors, they're keeping alive a part of our national heritage. In fact, their exploits and adventures put us all to shame. So come along and just try to keep up with the rodeo grandmas of Ellensburg, Washington. They're the real thing. Western cowgirls who are at home on the range. Between them, they have almost 300 years of riding, roping, and wrangling experience. The youngin' of the group is 56-year-old Judy Galladay. She's a range rider, herding cattle for ranchers in the area, always with the help of her trusty cow dog. Janice Anderson is 61. There's generations of ranching experience in her blood, and she's still got the touch when it comes to calf roping. 70-year-old trick roper Peggy Hunt began performing in rodeos way back in high school. 4 children and 8 grandchildren later, she's still going strong. And last but certainly not least, there's the spitfire of the group, 85-year-old Lorraine Platt. She cracks her whip not only to entertain audiences, but also to keep the other grandmas in line. They came together by chance, answering a call for real Western women to audition for a Washington Bank TV commercial. The rest is rodeo grandma history. Since this first commercial 3 years ago, they've made rodeo, radio, and TV appearances all over the country. Out west, they're just about legendary, as you can see from their latest commercial.
Is this checking plan really free?
Absolutely.
Not so fast.
Grandma.
From Washington Mutual. Nice tight.
So you can imagine my excitement and slight apprehension when I got the chance not only to meet the grandmas, but perform with them in the world-famous Ellensburg Rodeo. I may have shown up looking the part, but the grandmas wanted to make sure I could ride. You know, there's a rich tradition of Hispanic cowboys. Too bad it has absolutely nothing to do with me. Anyway, my riding passed the test. Lorraine, how am I doing so far?
You're doing pretty good.
Yeah?
I'll give you a okay.
All right, thanks.
Okay.
Time to rehearse our act. We practice the grand entrance, or waving technique. And before I know it, Peggy's got me twirling a lasso like an old cowhand. Or at least it looked that way, thanks to the magic of television. After a little refreshment, and wouldn't you know, Lorraine's the first to crack into the beer, I finally get these dynamos to sit a spell and chat. You all become role models for young and old, but especially the older folks. And role models. How do you feel about that?
We're not just sitting back in the rocking chair like some, we're keeping busy, keeping active. Like they say, you have to have a reason to get up in the morning. And I think we do.
It's so nice to sleep in the morning when you can.
You gals ever see the day you won't be riding? Retiring?
Well, it'll be something.
They'll have to have a heck of a time to keep up with me.
Well, that's true. I had a heck of a time trying to keep up with you today.
Keeping us all going.
But there's no retirement in store for you gals.
No, I said I'd ride as long as I could. I'm afraid now my horse before I do.
Good morning. Welcome to the Ellensburg Rodeo.
It's showtime, and you can't start a rodeo without a big parade. Along the route, it quickly becomes apparent that overnight, word had spread around town about my biggest cowboy weakness.
Jose, the proper way to say it is...
Yee-haw! Jose, yeehaw!
All right, so these guys, you always see at a rodeo, but how about this? 4 grandmas and a greenhorn. After our entrance, Peggy takes center stage.
Look at that.
Then it's my turn.
You have a rope. Oh, boy. A New York cowboy with a pink rope. I like that.
Well, I may not win any roping prizes, but I might just have one over Lorraine. What do you all think? You think we make a good pair?
I think so. I think the Spectre should get the lady and oh, lady. Oh, lady. You lady.
Right.
Yeehaw.
It's wonderful to see them in action again, isn't it? Tragically, in August of 1998, we lost Judy Galladay to breast cancer. What few people knew at that time is that she had fought the disease for most of her years as a rodeo grandma. Her dream was to be successful in her fight against cancer, and as a survivor, to inspire others who had been touched by the disease. The grandmas had always been a close group, and the sister became even tighter. The sisterhood became even tighter with Judy's passing. The individual ladies, like anyone else, experienced major life events. For example, while they were at an appearance in Spokane, Chloe got a phone call that her house was on fire. Lorraine suffered a stroke, and a year later, she broke her hip right before an appearance and sat in front of the stage and carried off the appearance, and then they took her to OHSU to get fixed up afterward. Janice and my mom both lost their mothers. But through it all, they all recovered beautifully to carry on. Lorraine was our chief yodeler after all, and they were there to serve as ambassadors of our beautiful valley. They also supported each other and made each other stronger through every event. The grannies shared many celebrations too. The birth of grandchildren and great-grandchildren, marriages and retirement. And following Judy's passing, Chloe stepped in as the fourth grandma. Again, New York came calling, and the rodeo grandmas were featured on the Today Show. Florence Henderson traveled to Ellensburg to ride with the grandmas. And again, we featured our beautiful valley.
This morning on our continuing series, Forever Young, A Guide to Life After 50, seniors take to the saddle. Today, contributor Florence Henderson is here with the story of 4 tireless seniors, a group of friends with so much energy, they actually make Florence look downright lazy. And that's hard to do. Hi, Florence.
Hi, Katie.
Great
How
to
are
see you. Good.
You too. You look fabulous.
Thank you, darling.
Well, let's just say that this assignment brought me to the northwest town of Ellensburg, Washington, where I was hot on the trail and a little saddle sore, too. Throughout this valley and across the western plain, folks here whisper at the table. Deep in these parts rides a band of cowboys. 4 buckaroos, whip with a rope, and cattle prod, too. They're feared by man and beast alike. And if you stumble across their posse, don't call them sir. For these are the rodeo grandmas.
Nice being a buckaroo, isn't it?
People say, well, I've reached 65. I can take it easy now. Well, who in the heck wants to take it easy?
The eldest, 88-year-old Lorraine Plath, had to saddle up for school each day. Really?
I rode a donkey. I had a little donkey I rode to school, 5 miles to school.
Today, she's master of the yodel.
You gotta wiggle your tongue. And the only way you can do it is just drive down behind a bunch of cows. And they won't holler at you if you make a mistake or anything.
In 1947, Peggy Hunt wore the Ellensburg Rodeo Princess crown.
Changing hands in a loop.
Now, at 73, she's still trick roping. Janice Anderson is 64. Here, she lassos a steer in 8 seconds flat.
I just think it's good, healthy fun.
And with 65 years of experience, Chloe Weidenbach, Lorraine's daughter, can read the heavens.
See where the light from the sun makes a little, like a rainbow? That's called a sundog. And when those are in the sky, there's a storm coming.
The Rodeo Grandmas.
The Cowgirls first banded together in 1993 to answer a casting call. A local bank picked them to front their Wild West ad campaign.
They wanted a grandmother that chewed snooze and rode bucking horses or bulls is what they asked for. Well, none of us did those things anymore. I mean, we were grandmas.
Instead, the commercials feature the grandmas doing what they've been doing naturally for the last 6 decades as professional ranchers and rodeo performers. They rope steer, barrel race, and just look pretty.
The important thing, I feel, is even though you're out there working in all weather elements and under many different circumstances on the ranch, you can still be a lady. 2, 3, 4.
During my own journey out west, I had no choice but to join the gang.
At 88, you can still get on a horse. You just sit up there and let the horse do all the work.
How many grandchildren do you have, Lorraine?
I have 18 great-grandkids. That's about all I do.
Wow, that is absolutely amazing. Tell me, what qualifies one to be a rodeo grandma?
You had to be able to ride, and we had to be a grandma.
Okay, so I had the grandma requirement covered.
Murdoch, sit, Murdoch.
I just didn't tell the gals I hadn't saddled up since the Brady Bunch Grand Canyon episode.
You gals think I'm going to qualify here in the rodeo grandma?
I think so.
As a rodeo grandma, I tamed that wild country, roamed the range, and braved the mighty rapids.
Come on, Murdoch.
There's a third of a cup of molasses, dry mustard.
Even baked beans.
When we eat it, you add vinegar to take care of the poppers.
This is valuable information.
You can find this recipe in their new cookbook, Good-Looking Cooking with the Rodeo Grandmas and Friends.
Scoot over.
Oh, no, me so bossy.
Yeah.
Lorraine also taught me how to yodel.
Well, I'd holler that when the cows are all scattered.
Come up with your rope.
And my friend Janice gave me steer roping lessons.
Look at the horns.
Home, home on the range.
All this before lunch is typical for the grandmas who are as busy as ever. Now they're working on a new children's book.
The sun rose bright and pink that day and warmed the western hills.
They've dedicated the story to Judy Galloway, a rodeo grandma they lost to breast cancer 2 years ago.
She's always with us when we go places.
For the rodeo grandmas, the best place to be is on the back of a horse where they can see life a little more clearly.
It's just a wonderful life. It's in your blood.
It's what we live and breathe.
After you get a certain age, you don't dare give up.
Stop!
In October 2006, we lost Lorraine at the age of 94, and we lost Peg at the age of 86 in May 2014. But tonight, the families of Lorraine, Peggy, and Judy are here with us, as well as the families of Janice and Chloe. We would like to ask the family members of all the rodeo grandmas to stand now so we can recognize you.
There is one more person that's here tonight, too, that helped us guide the group. Bill Veert is right here, Bill and Sandy Veert. And Bill settled here he's a rancher in the valley, but he was from Tacoma and had a law firm in Tacoma. And without his wonderful guidance, we just couldn't have been what the Rodeo Grandmas were today. And I just want to hats off to Bill. Thank you very much. Thank you. So when we would go on appearances, we would take Judy's dogs, and they'd have the ropes. And after we would play a little sequence like this, I would say, and now it's time to present the Rodeo Grandmas. And so, to present the honors to them, I would also like to say, would you like to meet the Rodeo Grandmas in person? And would you like to meet the Rodeo Grandmas in person? Accepting the plaque for Judy Galladay is her daughter Peggy Sue Mead. And accepting the plaque for Peggy Minor Hunt is her daughter Chris Hunt Olson. And Chloe is always going to do a double duty like she always has been, and she's going to accept her plaque for herself as well as her mom Lorraine.
So I just want to say that Aunt Judy was a very humble person, and she would be so honored and wonder why in the world everybody was making such a ruckus about her. So thank you, everybody. She's honored, and so are we.
And thank you on behalf of the Miners Hunt family. Mom would be very honored.
On behalf of the Weidenbach class family, I would like to point out that my sister has arrived here for this wonderful time from Torrington, Wyoming. I'd like to thank the whole community, as well as the Hall of Fame for Washington Rodeo, and all of you people that have come here this evening to help us celebrate. Thank you so much.
Howdy, folks. Glad you can be with us tonight. To the Ellensburg Rodeo Hall of Fame Board of Directors and members, this is truly an honor for me to be inducted into the Ellensburg Rodeo Hall of Fame with the Ellensburg Rodeo Grandmas. I deeply and humbly appreciate this honor. Thank you. Thanks to family, friends, fans, and our manager, Molly Morrow. To my husband, Jerry Anderson, for always being ready to lend a hand. To Chloe Weidenbach and Riley Miner, my grandson, for team roping with me during the commercial auditions in 1993. Riley was 5 and roped on his pony, as I remember. Thanks, Riley. The years being a rodeo grandma were special and fun. One special memory was riding in a long black limo with the other grandmas and walking the red carpet for an appearance in Hollywood. Wow, that was exciting. Now I would like to share some rodeo grandma memories. Lorraine liked to yodel and wow the crowds with the crack of her bullwhip. I can still hear it. Peggy thought she was born to be a rodeo grandma and loved trick riding. Roping, I should say, pardon me. She did some trick riding, though, in younger years. Chloe was always jolly and helpful to all. Judy, being a range rider, called the ground her carpet and the sky her ceiling. For me, I love sharing my Western heritage. My ranching roots run deep. The grandmas all loved rodeo. We couldn't wait for the Ellensburg Rodeo to come every year. The grandmas enjoyed riding their horses in the parade and grand entry. We all rode with great pride. I hope to see you at the parade and rodeo this year. Both will be special, and you do not want to miss any of this action. In closing, sorry, stage fright. In closing, I have a special little surprise for you. His name is Maverick John, my dad's name, Minor. He is 5th generation, future Ellensburg Rodeo. Miner's great-grandson, Maverick. Hi, honey. Hi, darling. Let's continue the great sport of rodeo. Thanks to all of you for everything you do.
Well, that's wrapping up a lot of history of the Ellensburg Rodeo right there. We're so blessed to have these people inducted into our Hall of Fame. They mean so much to our community, to our rodeo, and to our future of the Ellensburg Rodeo. We appreciate the grandmas. We appreciate Miles Hare. So let's give them one big